Thomas Lyons achieved the American dream by purchasing a home with a sprawling property for his family to enjoy. Sadly, the property had a downside. People wouldn't stop cutting across his yard. When politely asking people to stop didn't work, Thomas hatched a master plan that no one saw coming. Before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Thomas Lyons was excited. He had just purchased his first home. It was a beautiful 3-bedroom with a sprawling yard. The space was amazing, giving his kids room to run around and his wife a place to garden. While the house was lovely, Thomas was most excited about having a vibrant front lawn, something he would take care of and maintain. Little did Thomas know that the people in town had different plans. Not long after moving into their new residence, Thomas noticed something very strange. People would cut across his yard, making a little shortcut for themselves from one side of the sidewalk to the other. Thomas began to notice a lot of kids cut across his lawn coming to and from school every day. His house must be along a school route, and clearly kids cutting across this lawn was accepted as part of that. Honestly, Thomas wouldn't have been bothered by it if it wasn't for the fact that so many people crossed his yard on a daily basis. Because of this, Thomas knew he had to do something. First, Thomas had to make sure he wasn't over-exaggerating the number of people using his yard as their own personal shortcut. So he set up shop, deciding to install a camera and count the people. He was amazed that in one day, 30 pedestrians, 8 bikers, and even 2 people pushing strollers crossed over his front lawn. Thomas couldn't believe it, considering there was a sidewalk they could use. As if bikes weren't bold enough, people were dirt biking on his property. There's a reason people take those bikes to the trails. They tear up any grass underneath of them. Due to all of the daily corner cutters, one side of Thomas's front yard became bare and void of grass. This was Thomas and his family's dream, and he wasn't going to stand by while people ruined it with their laziness. So Thomas decided to take the diplomatic route and politely ask people to stop cutting across his front lawn. It didn't work. People outright ignored his request and continued to walk across his lawn. Thomas told his friends about his issue, and they recommended putting in a fence. It was a great idea, but way too expensive of an option. Between supplies, time, and paperwork he would need to complete for the town he lived in, fencing was off the table, so he needed to figure out another solution to ensure people stopped ruining his lawn. Days passed, and Thomas began to grow aggravated as he watched rude people use his yard as their own personal sidewalk. While watching the corner cutters, Thomas began to hatch a master plan that satisfied both his lawn and his need to get back at the people. With his trusty camera in place, he got to work. The first order of business was installing a sensor that would blare an alarm if it was triggered. The second thing was too good to say, and Thomas just sat back and watched everything unfold. Bright and early, the first person came to cut across Thomas's lawn. This time, Thomas didn't sit back in anger, but watched with a smile on his face because he knew what was about to happen. The cutter moved across the lawn, setting off the sensor and making an alarm blare at full volume. If that wasn't enough to get her off the yard, then the next thing definitely did the trick. After the alarm went off, so did the lawn's sprinkler system. Thomas had it set at the highest level, soaking the cutter in cold water. Thomas sat back and watched as she fled, screaming. This wasn't the last person to fall into Thomas's trap, though. A group of middle school girls was the next ones to meet the sprinkler, cutting across the yard only to leave screaming as they were soaked with water. This group was luckier than the first because they were a bit closer to the sidewalk, so they had less time in the spray. Still, though, walking on the sidewalk would have kept them completely dry. You can't say Thomas isn't a thorough person, because he set up the sprinklers to follow people all the way until they hit his driveway. Clearly, he wanted them to know he was serious about this. Thomas was more than thrilled with how things ended, especially considering he had every shriek and squeal recorded on his camera. So he went to TikTok, wanting to share his brilliance and the videos. While a lot of people found the events amusing, some people actually criticized Thomas and how he approached the situation. One person wrote, "It's just a couple of people walking. Take a chill pill." Of course, Thomas was not going to stand for it. These people were trespassing over his yard, after all. One person came to his defense, though, saying, "It's not one person, it's many, every day, and it costs money to fix a lawn, especially if you live in an area that makes you have a certain look to your yard and home." as if he knew someone was watching, just as he got sprayed by the sprinkler one kid flipped off Thomas's camera. If he knew someone was watching, then why cut across the lawn in the first place? Since the kid was bold enough to flip Thomas off, you could assume he was probably asked by Thomas not to cross the lawn before. Is his retaliation all fair in love and war? Or are we dealing with a lack of respect here, as commenters were quick to point out? Another person shot back, saying, "When someone is racing to the bus, every second counts. My job is more important than your stupid lawn." Thomas was not having it, and his response was spot on. Thomas wrote back, saying, "Then leave 5 minutes earlier. There's no excuse." Would you let someone run across your backyard when they're literally a full sidewalk only 5 feet away? No. Stop being such an idiot. Then someone came up with a very valid point. People could sue him. The comment read, "When someone gets hurt on your property, they can sue you. Plain and simple. He has every right to keep people off his land." As some commenters pointed out, while it's just water, to some people, getting sprayed with water all of a sudden could cause an injury. If someone had heart troubles or difficulty with balance, then a sudden burst of water could potentially cause a fall or a medical issue.